give me a chance to prove it to you. Let me show you the facts. Let me show you the evidence. I will not give up. I will not give in. Please, just give me a chance.
A mother stands before television cameras promoting her new children's book. It's called, Are You With Me? And it tells the story of a little boy coping with the death of his father. The illustrations show an angel with wings watching over a child. I just wanted some story to read to my kids at night, Kouri Richins tells the hosts of Good Things Utah with a sad smile. So, I was like, let's just write one. Her 3 young sons, ages 5, 7, and 9. Lost their father unexpectedly just a year earlier. 39-year-old Eric Richins died in his sleep on March 4, 2022. Tragic. Heartbreaking. Or so everyone thought. But investigators weren't convinced. The medical examiner found 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl in Eric's system. Illicit fentanyl. Not prescription medication. The kind you buy on the street. And Eric Richins had no history of drug abuse. He didn't use opioids. He barely even drank. So where did the fentanyl come from? Detectives started digging. They discovered that just weeks before Eric's death, Kouri had purchased fentanyl pills from her housekeeper. Not once. Not twice. 3 times. And each time, she'd asked for something stronger. They found text messages where Kouri asked her housekeeper, "Still have your hookup?" just 3 days after her husband died. They discovered she'd taken out nearly $2 million in life insurance policies on Eric, some without his knowledge.
And he kind of looked over at Kouri, and I was like, and he just kind of looked over, and I says, go over there and check out with her, so they did. And anyway, they ended up having a date. And everybody was cracking up. Oh, he finally did it, and it was just so cute, and they finally went out, and from then on they were like glued to each other, it was perfect, I thought.
They learned Eric had told multiple friends he believed his wife was trying to poison him. On Valentine's Day 2022, 2 weeks before his death, Eric ate a sandwich Kouri left for him. Within minutes, he broke out in hives and felt like he was dying. He told friends, "I think she tried to poison me." And on the night of March 3, 2022, after closing on a real estate deal, Kouri made Eric a celebratory Moscow Mule cocktail. He drank it in bed while watching TV. Hours later, he was dead. On May 8, 2023, just weeks after Kouri appeared on television promoting her grief book, police arrested her and charged her with murder. The trial began in February 2026. And what jurors heard was shocking, a calculated, premeditated murder disguised as grief. This is the story of Kouri Richins, a real estate investor who wrote a children's book about losing a father. While prosecutors say she was the one who killed him. All for money. All for a fresh start. All while her 3 sons slept upstairs. Kouri Darden was born in 1990 in Utah. She grew up in a tight-knit Mormon community and married young, as is common in LDS culture. On June 15, 2013, 23-year-old Kouri married Eric Richins, a successful stonemason who owned CNE Stone Masonry in Kamas, Utah, a small mountain town about 40 miles southeast of Salt Lake City. Eric was well-liked, hard-working, family-oriented.
To be able to speak out for the first time is terrifying, but is much needed. The world has yet to hear who I really am, what I've really done, and what I really didn't do. Give me a chance to prove it to you. Let me show you the facts. Let me show you the evidence. I will not give up. I will not give in. Please, just give me a chance. What I've really done is protect Eric at all costs. What I really didn't do is murder my husband. I could not and would not ever do that to Eric, or anyone for that matter.
He built his business from the ground up and was known for his craftsmanship. He was also devoted to his family. He wanted children, a stable home, the American dream. Before they married, Eric and Kouri signed a prenuptial agreement. The prenup was clear: if they divorced, Eric's assets, his business, his equipment, his trucks, would remain his. But if Eric died while they were still married, Kouri would inherit a significant portion of his estate, including his 50% ownership in CNE Stone Masonry. Between 2015 and 2017, Kouri launched a real estate investment business. She bought homes, renovated them, and flipped them for profit. It seemed like a lucrative venture. But according to Eric's sister, Kouri Richins Benson, Kouri began having financial troubles. She allegedly started taking money from Eric to fund her projects.
The evidence will prove that Kouri Richins murdered Eric for his money and to get a fresh start at life.
There's going to be times in this case where the state is going to discuss facts with certain witnesses, and they're going to show you the witch. And I'm going to take those same facts and those same witnesses, and I'm going to show you a widow.
We had a drink together at 9 to celebrate something at work tomorrow.
Money he didn't always know about. By 2020, their marriage was strained. Eric's family noticed tension. Kouri was ambitious, always working on the next deal. Eric was more conservative with money, more cautious. And he was starting to suspect Kouri was hiding things from him. On October 13, 2020, Eric met with an estate planning attorney. He told the lawyer he wanted to protect himself from recently discovered and ongoing abuse and misuse of his finances by Kouri, according to court documents. He was worried. He wanted to make sure his assets were secure. On November 3, 2020, Eric took decisive action. He removed Kouri as the beneficiary of his $500,000 life insurance policy. He also transferred his home and his business interest into a trust managed by his sister, Katie. If something happened to him, Kouri would no longer automatically inherit everything. But here's the problem: Eric didn't tell Kouri he'd done this. She had no idea he'd removed her from his will. She had no idea the financial safety net she'd been counting on was gone. And prosecutors believe that when Kouri eventually found out, she decided to act before Eric could finalize everything. In late January 2022, Kouri allegedly signed an application for a new $100,000 life insurance policy on Eric's life, without his knowledge. On February 4, 2022, the policy went into effect. Around the same time, Kouri started reaching out to people about obtaining drugs. Specifically, fentanyl. Carmen Lauber was Kouri's housekeeper. She'd worked for the Richins family for years, cleaning their home and helping with various tasks. She also had a troubled past. She'd struggled with drug addiction and had connections to people who sold pills. In early February 2022, Kouri called Carmen. According to Carmen's testimony at trial, Kouri said she needed pain medication for an investor. She asked if Carmen could help her get some. Carmen reached out to her contacts.
The evidence will prove that Kouri Richins murdered Eric for his money and to get a fresh start at life. More than anything, she wanted his money to perpetuate her facade of privilege, affluence, and success. Kouri Richins owned a house flipping business. She would purchase, rehab, and resell homes. She presented herself to friends and business associates as remarkably successful. The evidence will prove that on the day that Eric died, Kouri Richins owed over $4.5 million to over 20 different lenders. And she did not have the ability to service that debt because her bank accounts were exhausted and her credit was exhausted. She had been taking out new loans to include payday loans to service existing loans, but her new credit was drying up. In the 5 months leading to Eric Richins' death, Kouri Richins overdrafted over 200 transactions, totaling over $300,000.
On February 11 or 12, 2022, she obtained pills, likely oxycodone or a similar painkiller, and gave them to Kouri in a hand-to-hand transaction. Kouri paid her with cash left inside a house she was flipping. A few days later, on Valentine's Day 2022, Eric Richins had a terrifying experience. Kouri had left him a sandwich from a local restaurant with a Valentine's Day note. Eric ate some of the sandwich. Within minutes, he broke out in severe hives. His throat felt tight. He struggled to breathe. He felt like he was going to die. Eric called a close friend. "I think my wife tried to poison me," he said. The friend was shocked. Eric explained what had happened, the sandwich, the sudden reaction, the feeling that something was very wrong. Eric had no food allergies. He'd never reacted to anything like that before. Prosecutors believe Kouri had laced the sandwich with fentanyl, her first attempt to kill Eric. But she didn't use enough. Eric survived.
And on the day that Eric died, Kouri Richins was scheduled to close on an unfinished and derelict mansion in Midway, and thus take on an additional $3.2 million in debt. She did not have the financial ability to service that debt, to rehab the mansion, or to hold on to it long enough to resell it. The mansion may appear impressive from a distance, but upon close inspection, it is just a facade. On the other hand, on the day that Eric died, his estate was worth over $4 million. And the evidence will prove that Kouri Richins believed she would inherit it all. She believed that she would inherit Eric's $2 million interest in a stonemasonry business, an interest that a prenuptial agreement prevented her from getting any part of if they divorced, but permitted her to get all of if Eric died while they were married. She believed that she would inherit the $1 million or so home that they lived in, but that Eric owned separate and apart from her. And she believed that she would benefit from nearly $2 million in insurance on Eric's life, to include the $100,000 policy that she took out a few weeks before he died.
After the Valentine's Day incident, Kouri reached back out to Carmen Lauber. According to Carmen's testimony, Kouri said the pills she provided weren't strong enough. She needed something more powerful. Carmen asked around. One of her contacts said he could get fentanyl pills. Carmen texted Kouri, "I have a friend that could get them, but they were fentanyl pills." Kouri's response, according to Carmen's testimony, "Okay, go ahead and get them." On February 26, 2022, Carmen obtained fentanyl pills and gave them to Kouri. This time, Kouri paid her approximately $1,000 in cash, again left inside the house Kouri was renovating. Now Kouri had what she needed. Illicit fentanyl. 5 times more potent than heroin. And enough to kill. On March 3, 2022, Kouri closed on a real estate deal for a property in Midway, Utah. It was a big win for her business. To celebrate, she told Eric they should have a quiet evening at home. Their 3 sons were asleep upstairs. Kouri and Eric had the house to themselves. According to Kouri's later statements to police, she made Eric a Moscow Mule cocktail, vodka, ginger beer, lime juice, served in a copper mug. It was one of his favorite drinks. Eric drank the Moscow Mule while lying in bed, watching television.
9 days after the charged attempted murder, 1 week before the charged murder, Kouri Richins text messaged her boyfriend, "I have a crazy dream. You quit your job. I divorce and come up with millions and millions. We buy Midway and live in the guest house and rent out the huge house as a big event center. $15,000 a day like they charge down the road, maybe $12,000 to stay competitive. And we will just run the event center as our daily job and hang out every day, raise some kids, have a little farm. Deal? Just over 2 weeks after Eric Richins' death, Kouri Richins text messaged her boyfriend a link to the secret St. Martin's Resort and Spa in the Caribbean and asked, "Are we there yet?" One month and 5 days after Eric Richins' death, Kouri Richins texted, "I think I want you to be my husband one day."
Kouri said she went to put one of their children to bed and then fell asleep in the child's room. Prosecutors believe Kouri laced the Moscow Mule with fentanyl. A massive dose. 5 times the lethal amount. Eric Richins went to sleep and never woke up. At 3:21 a.m. on March 4, 2022, Kouri called 911. The recording is chilling. She sounds frantic, panicked. "My husband, he's not breathing. He's cold to the touch," she told the dispatcher. Emergency responders arrived within minutes. They attempted CPR. They used defibrillators. They administered Narcan, a drug that reverses opioid overdoses. Nothing worked. At 4:58 a.m., Eric Richins was pronounced dead at the age of 39. Kouri told first responders that she had no idea what happened. She said Eric had been fine when she went to bed. She said he must have had a heart attack or an aneurysm, something sudden and unexpected. But the medical examiner's autopsy told a different story. Dr. Eric Richins, Utah's chief medical examiner, conducted the autopsy. Toxicology testing revealed a staggering amount of fentanyl in Eric's system.
She got a new phone. And on that new phone, there were the following internet searches. Can cops uncover deleted messages iPhone? Can you delete everything off an old iPhone without actually having it? Can deleted text messages be retrieved from an iPhone? How to completely wipe an iPhone clear remotely. How to permanently delete information from an iPhone remotely. On April the 13th, 2022, about 5 weeks after Eric Richins' death, detectives informed Kouri Richins that the autopsy and toxicology results show that Eric died of fentanyl poisoning. Thereafter, searches on her phone include if someone is poisoned, what does it go down on the death certificate as?
15 nanograms per milliliter. The lethal dose is typically around 3 nanograms per milliliter. Eric had 5 times that amount. The medical examiner also found acetylfentanyl, a synthetic analog of fentanyl, which is even more potent and is considered an illicit street drug. This wasn't prescription medication. This was street-level fentanyl, the kind that's killing tens of thousands of Americans every year. Dr. Christensen ruled Eric's death a homicide caused by acute fentanyl intoxication. On April 13, 2022, police informed Kouri that her husband had died of a fentanyl overdose. Instead of acting shocked or devastated, Kouri immediately began researching. According to forensic analysis of her phone, within days of learning about the fentanyl, Kouri searched. What happens to deleted messages? How do police and forensic analysts recover deleted data from phones? Signs of being under federal investigation. Cause of death usually does not impact life insurance payment.
Eric and Kouri adored their boys. They were their world. They were in that place that those of us who've had kids have all been in, where you spend your days driving them around to soccer and all their activities, and they're just the center of your world. And that's how both of these parents felt about their kids. They loved them a lot. And what's more important is that the boys adored their father, adored him. And Kouri knew that about her sons and about her family. Their marriage had survived through some rough times, and you're going to hear about that. Like any marriage, it wasn't a perfect marriage. They'd gone through a really bad year where they both contemplated divorce, and they did what a lot of couples do. They went to marriage counseling, they worked it out, and they decided to stick it out. And they did.
And on June 6, 2022, she searched. What is a lethal dose of fentanyl? How long do life insurance companies take to pay? These searches paint a picture of someone worried about getting caught. Someone trying to figure out if she'd left evidence behind. Someone already planning how to collect the insurance money. Meanwhile, Kouri was playing the grieving widow. She attended Eric's funeral surrounded by family and friends. She comforted their 3 young sons. She told everyone how much she missed Eric, how unexpected his death had been, how hard it was to move forward. But behind the scenes, she was already moving on. Just days after Eric's death, on March 7th, Kouri texted Carmen Lauber, "Still have your hookup?" Carmen was stunned. She called Kouri and asked, "Please tell me those pills were not for him." Kouri responded, "No, they were not. Eric passed away from a brain aneurysm." But Carmen knew the truth. And she was terrified. A few days later, Kouri sent Carmen a check for $1,300, ostensibly for construction clean midway, payment for cleaning the house Kouri was flipping. Carmen testified at trial, "I never cleaned a house ever in my life for $1,300. She knew the payment wasn't for cleaning. It was hush money. Payment for the fentanyl she'd helped Kouri obtain. As 2022 continued, Kouri began collecting life insurance payouts. Eric had multiple policies totaling nearly $2 million. Kouri was listed as the beneficiary on some of them, the ones Eric hadn't had time to change before he died. She also contested Eric's trust. Eric's sister Katie was listed as the trustee and personal representative of his estate. Kouri filed a legal claim in February 2023, arguing she should have control of Eric's assets. And then, in March 2023, Kouri did something that shocked everyone. She published a children's book. Are You With Me? Was a picture book about a young boy coping with the death of his father. The illustrations showed an angel with wings watching over a child. The book's description on Goodreads read, "Designed to offer comfort and solace to young minds in a way that is both accessible and engaging." On April 6, 2023, Kouri appeared on Good Things Utah, a local lifestyle television show, to promote the book. She smiled for the cameras. She talked about how she wanted to help her sons process their grief.
So my husband passed away unexpectedly last year. So it's March 4th was a 1-year anniversary for us, and he was 39. It completely took us all by shock. And we have 3 little boys, 10, 9, and 6. And my kids and I kind of wrote this book on the different emotions and grieving processes that we've experienced last year, and hoping that it can kind of help other kids deal with this and kind of find happiness some way or another,
and to make sense and process. I'm
Yes.
sure, and I'm sure you felt that going through and trying to explain it and articulate it for you and your boys.
Yes, exactly. And so I've done, I'm new to all of this, so kind of doing all, research and reading books and things to try and understand, not only how to grieve as a widow, as a wife, but also, with my kids, how to help them understand what just happened. And what I have kind of found is, as I mentioned, it's kind of the 3 C's is how I visualize it, and it's, connection, continuity and care. And it's, making sure connection is the major one, and making sure that their spirit is always alive in your home, and memories are always brought up, and doing things that your loved ones love to do, whether it's riding bikes or their favorite dinner, and just constantly, talking about them.
And Kouri, do you mention at dinner, here's Dad, or Dad would like this meal, or Dad would, let's bring Dad on a bike ride?
Yeah, exactly. And it's, explaining to my kids, just because he's not present here with us physically, that doesn't mean his presence isn't here with us, and he's doing these things with us. And he's, here for birthdays, and he's here for Christmas, and, and it's just comforting to them to know that, they're not living this life alone. Like, Dad is still here, it's just in a different way, a different version.
Well, I opened up your book, and one of the first pages I saw is a little boy. It looks like he's standing in a hallway at school, and he's saying, "Are you still here?"
Yes, yeah, and it's, and that was like the first day of school, and, all the nerves that kids face on the first day of school with new, and just hoping, Dad, like, walk with me, like, help me get through today, like, give me the strength to do that. And it has found, it's been a lot of peace for my kids to really remember that in the back of their head, that they're never alone,
So you actually wrote this book with your children.
I did.
And it's only been a year. How did you process and say you go from processing death to I need to write a book and help others?
I just watched the struggle that my kids were going through, and I actually, I went on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and trying to find something that we could use to cope at nights. Nights are the hardest, it seems like, for everybody when, dealing with anything, but I just wanted some story to read to my kids at night, and I just could not find anything. I couldn't find anything that really, suited them or helped them find comfort and peace, and so, I was like, let's just write one. And so, I took things that my kids have said to me this last year, and we kind of articulated it and put it into a story, and, just have hopes that it will help other kids.
Grief is not linear, and this sounds like it's a touchstone when you need it to come back to for you and your boys. So the first one you had mentioned was connection, of the 3 C's, keeping the person's spirit alive. The second, continuity.
Yes, and that's, just making sure you're trying to stay, as much as you can on routine, and, whether that's, sports or pick up and drop off from school, or community activities, just, trying to stay in a routine as much as possible.
And then the last C is care.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So, on top of just loving your kids and hugging them and kissing them and, extra cuddles and everything, I think it's important that I've learned to really affirm, their feelings. When they're mad or they're sad, it's just that affirmation of, I understand, like, that you are upset, because of this, like, let's talk about it, and so I think really it's not, it's the emotional and physical touch of it, but really letting your kids understand that why they're feeling the way that they are feeling, and it's okay, and let's deal with it and talk about it.
And also, to say it's accidental, 1 or 2 pills might be accidental. 20 or 5 times the lethal dose is not accidental, Your Honor. That is someone who wants Eric dead, and the person who benefited the most from Eric being dead is the defendant, or the person who thought she was going to benefit the most from Eric being defendant. She thought she was going to be entitled to Eric's estate. She didn't know that there was this trust that had put the money into Kouri Richins. Thought on the day that Eric died that she was the one that was going to benefit. She benefited from the insurance policies. She thought she was going to benefit from more, and she thought she was going to benefit from Eric's estate. She tried to benefit from the other life insurance policy on Eric's business. That didn't happen. She also was in dire financial straits, Your Honor.
She said she hoped the book would help other families going through similar tragedies. I just wanted some story to read to my kids at night, and so, I was like, let's just write one, she told the hosts cheerfully. Viewers across Utah watched. Many were touched by the story. A grieving widow, trying to help her children heal. It was heartbreaking. But investigators saw something else. To them, the book launch looked like a calculated PR move. A way to establish herself as a devoted mother, to garner public sympathy, to create a narrative that she was a victim of tragedy, not the perpetrator. On May 8, 2023, just weeks after the book launched, police arrested Kouri Richins at her home in Camas. She was charged with aggravated murder, Eric's death; attempted aggravated murder, the Valentine's Day sandwich incident; insurance fraud; forgery. If convicted, she faced life in prison. The arrest made national headlines. The grief author accused of murder. The mom who wrote about loss after allegedly killing her husband. True crime podcasts dissected the case. Dateline NBC devoted an episode to it. The story had everything: a shocking crime, a sympathetic public figure revealed to be a monster, and a children's book that now seemed macabre. Kouri pleaded not guilty to all charges. Her defense team argued that Eric had a secret drug problem. They claimed he'd been using THC gummies for pain management, that he'd occasionally used hydrocodone, that he might have accidentally overdosed on fentanyl he obtained himself. But prosecutors had overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Eric's family, friends, and co-workers all testified he had no history of drug abuse. He didn't use opioids. He occasionally used THC gummies for back pain, but nothing stronger. And the fentanyl in his system was street-level, illicit fentanyl. Not something you accidentally obtain. The trial finally began on February 23, 2026, nearly 4 years after Eric's death. The courtroom in Colville, Utah, was packed. Media from across the country descended on the small town. Court TV live-streamed every moment. Prosecutor Jeff Bloodworth delivered a powerful opening statement. He laid out the state's case. Kouri Richins had a motive: life insurance money and financial gain; means, access to fentanyl through Carmen Lauber.
Give me a chance to prove it to you. Let me show you the facts. Let me show you the evidence. I will not give up. I will not give in. Please, just give me a chance. What I've really done is protect Eric at all costs. What I really didn't do is murder my husband. I could not and would not ever do that to Eric, or anyone for that matter.
His death certificate reads that the manner of his death is still unknown to this day. You're going to hear testimony that a medical examiner has the ability to declare the manner of someone's death. It can be homicide, it can be suicide, it can be accidental overdose, it can be murder, it can be anything. To this day, the medical examiner, the professional that's the head of declaring how people die in the state of Utah, has never been able to determine the manner of Eric Richins' death. You're going to hear that before Eric's body was even taken out of their bedroom, Kouri was told the body was going to a morgue for an autopsy. So within an hour of the cops getting there, she knew there was going to be an autopsy of his body. And what happens when you have an autopsy? You figure out how someone died. That's what doctors do. They test your blood, they test your bodily tissues. So she knew that. But did she tell the police or the medical responders or the EMS, hey guys, you might want to check for fentanyl, my husband used it all the time? Did she do that? Because with one sentence, she could have taken all suspicion off her and made this about a drug overdose. But she didn't. As a matter of fact, she could have staged a whole drug overdose scene with fentanyl pills on his stomach and everything all over the place and say, gosh, I tried to get him in rehab for years and I couldn't. But she didn't. And you know why? Because she told her truth. She told her truth over and over again, and it's exactly what she told that 911 operator that you just heard and you're going to hear over and over at trial. I don't know what happened. Now you're going to hear that Eric Richins' family simply could not accept that. They needed someone or something to blame for losing someone they loved that wasn't Eric himself. There's going to be times in this case where the state is going to discuss facts with certain witnesses, and they're going to show you the witch. And I'm going to take those same facts and those same witnesses, and I'm going to show you a widow.
Okay, will you cue the video again for me?
It's Lyme disease, it's painful sometimes. Medicine for it.
What does he take? What medicine does he take?
I Can you find it and tell us?
Good. Yeah.
Hey guys, I here on Valentine. Today's the closest we got here. He's had 2 Eppies in their hand. It was $4.58.
Cam, you want to come out?
No history. Had chest pain when we went to bed.
What's your first name? What time did you guys go to bed?
9:30.
9:30. Okay.
9:45.
And then what alerted you to him today? Right now.
When I just woke up, when I sleep with my kids, I'll just wake up and I go back in my own bed.
Mm-hmm.
I just crawled over on his side.
And he was laying in bed. Okay.
He was on his back on the bed, and I just.
Okay. And he was on. You said he was on his back. Okay. Where are your children now?
Went to sleep in that room. 2 are awake with their ear to the door. I don't want them to come out. Please don't come out.
Where are the other 2 at? That are awake?
No, my bedroom.
And where's that at?
Right there, first one to your left.
Okay. Is there any family members we can call right now?
Yeah, I need to call my mom. I need to call my mom so bad.
Okay.
I think I don't know. 911's on the phone. I don't know.
Here. Okay.
I call my mom.
Yep. I'll give you a phone right now, okay?
I need to call his dad. He's gonna be okay, right? Like I got in bed and then I just got.
Yeah, they're doing their best, okay, ma'am? Here, you can use my phone.
Mom. Mom. Mom.
Yes?
Go to my house. Go to my house.
What's going on?
I don't know. Something's wrong with Eric. The police came after us are here. It's like, I don't know what's happening. He wasn't breathing. I don't know.
Who?
Eric.
Where's he at? On my way.
I think my partner found your phone. Is this it right here? Does he have any medical conditions or anything like that?
He has Lyme's disease.
Lyme's disease?
And opportunity, she was alone with Eric when she gave him the poison drink. He had several times a lethal amount of fentanyl in his blood and more in his stomach, Bloodworth told the jury. That extraordinary amount of fentanyl was intentional, not accidental. Defense attorney Catherine Nestor countered that Eric was dependent on drugs for pain relief and implied he'd overdosed accidentally. She portrayed Kouri as a loving wife and devoted mother who was being scapegoated. Over the next several weeks, the prosecution called 48 witnesses. Carmen Lauber took the stand and testified she'd obtained fentanyl pills for Kouri on 3 occasions in early 2022. She described the hand-to-hand transactions, the cash payments, the text messages. Under cross-examination, the defense tried to attack Carmen's credibility. She had a history of drug use. She was receiving immunity in exchange for her testimony. Her memory was sometimes fuzzy. But her core testimony remained consistent. Kouri Richins asked for fentanyl. Carmen got it for her. And weeks later, Eric was dead. Robert Crozier, the man who sold fentanyl to Carmen, also testified. He admitted he was a drug dealer. He confirmed he provided pills to Carmen in early 2022. Under cross-examination, he was unsure whether the pills he sold were fentanyl or oxycodone, a distinction the defense seized on. But toxicology results confirmed Eric died from illicit fentanyl, not prescription opioids. Kouri Richins Benson, Eric's sister, testified about Eric's concerns in the months before his death. She described how Eric had transferred his assets into a trust to protect them from Kouri. She testified that Eric had told her he was worried about Kouri's financial decisions and wanted to safeguard his estate for his children. Pamela Sue Ulmer, a former forensic pathologist for the Utah Office of the Medical Examiner, testified that Eric had no signs of fatal heart disease, stroke, or other natural causes. The only explanation for his death was the massive amount of fentanyl in his system. Perhaps most damning were the phone records and forensic evidence. Investigators retrieved deleted text messages between Kouri and Carmen. They recovered Kouri's Google searches about fentanyl dosages, life insurance payouts, and how police recovered deleted data. And there was one more piece of evidence, a letter found in Kouri's jail cell. Prosecutors alleged that Kouri had written a 6-page letter instructing her brother Ronald to give false testimony, claiming Eric had bought fentanyl pills from Mexico a year before his death. The letter was titled, "Walk the Dog," and read like a script for witness tampering.
Okay. So no heart problems or anything like that?
No, I mean, he just said his chest was hurting when he went to bed, but that's, I mean, not, if he doesn't drink enough water, you know, when he gets on the bike downstairs, I don't know, it didn't make sense. And then he just said he was really tired because he got his allergy shots yesterday morning.
Okay.
With my son, they went to bed.
And then when did you discover him? What time?
I got off, I got my phone. It was maybe 3.
About 3.
3:15.
Did you immediately call the 911?
Yeah, well, I mean, I got up and, well, as soon as I turned over and he was cold,
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like something was wrong. So, I mean, I just put the blanket on it because I just thought it was cold. So I just, and then I sat there for a minute and I just didn't feel like breathing or anything. And so I just, oh my God.
Okay.
Alright. And he just felt so heavy.
Mm-hmm. Any COVID or anything like that?
We all just got over COVID.
Okay.
You know,
And when was that?
a couple weeks ago.
Okay, so not recently.
Well, he just had a negative test. So I was the last positive, and then he had it. So his last negative test was a week ago.
Okay. Hey, ma'am, what's your name?
Kouri.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Kouri.
With a C?
No, Kouri. Gummies. Sometimes he'll go gummies before he goes to bed.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't seem like you did, though.
It's like a gummy, as in like a THC gummy? Okay. And who is his primary care physician?
Herb Lepley in person.
Who?
Herb Lepley.
How do you spell it? How's
P-L-E-Y.
Lepley? When was he last seen?
Just had a physical. Like, at 7:55.
When was that?
6 months, maybe. Oh my god, oh my god, what do you mean? You were just fine, you were fine. I don't understand what happened.
Kids are in that door over there. There's 2 kids that are awake. They're in that door. Yeah, she said to the left. Yeah, I think the master bedroom. Or the master bedroom. So basically she said, went to bed at 9:30. She slept with the kids because then she goes to bed. When she went to bed, around 3 o'clock, moved into her bed. He was cold and heavy. He has Lyme disease. He got an allergy shot yesterday. He might have taken a gummy, THC gummy, last night. So, other than that, just Lyme disease.
I already have dispensable Emmy and Dix.
It's probably gonna be big here.
EMTs on the scene talked about what could have caused Eric's death.
I don't know if he had an aneurysm or something with all the blood. There's a lot of blood for some unknown reason.
Were you first on scene?
We were second. The fire guy was here before us.
And there was blood before they get...
A little bit coming out as soon as we start doing compressions with the Lucas is when the blood came out. So.
Okay. All right.
I don't know.
No pulse or anything?
No, he was cold. I think he'd been down a while. Not a long time, but he'd been down a minute. He was asystole the whole time, so.
Okay. All right.
The officer then asked Kouri about Eric's condition when she found him.
And then when you discovered him, was he on the bed? Yes.
He was just laying on his side like normal.
Okay.
I just thought he was cold. It was cold in there, so I put the blanket on him.
Yeah.
But his body just felt like heavy,
And which way was he facing? Was he facing towards...
No, he was just up. Just facing up.
Oh, so he's laying on his back? Okay. And then did you pull him to the ground?
Yeah, that's what the lady on the phone told me to do, was to take the sheet and pull the sheet
Okay.
to the ground so I could do CPR.
Okay. What's his highest level of education?
It's a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
His mass is active. He didn't just die in his sleep. This is insane.
Any mental health conditions? No. Okay.
No.
How about any suicidal history? No.
Never.
Okay.
No.
Has he been seen by a doctor in the last 30 days?
No.
Okay. Has any prescriptions been filled in the last 30 days? No. Has he had a history of falling or anything? No. Any history of prescription abuse? No.
I mean, when he was in high school and stuff, yeah.
Okay.
Pain pills, I think.
Or maybe a reaction to his shots yesterday.
He just said he didn't feel good from them. Like,
He didn't look good last night.
he looked pale last night, and I asked if you were okay, and he said yeah, but he was saying his chest was hurting, but
Does he have any history of illicit drug use or anything in the past year?
no, never.
Well, I'll explain to you what the process is right now. Because he was in good health and at his age and everything like that, okay? Our medical examiner is going to come and do their investigation real quick, and then also our detective, just to make sure that everything's documented, correctly. And then from there, they'll explain to you what's going to happen. Most likely, what I'm thinking, because he has no serious health problems or anything like that. His age, most likely, they're going to take his body to the
Oh my God.
medical examiner's office just to make sure that there wasn't anything else.
Okay.
All right. Do you have any questions for me right now?
No. He had allergy shots yesterday.
Yeah, and that's what she was
Really
saying.
good last night when I was here.
What kind of allergy shots?
He gets weekly shots.
Him and his boy get weekly shots.
So they were both just feeling good.
Like seasonal allergies?
Yeah.
Oh.
The defense called very few witnesses. Kouri Richins did not testify in her own defense. On March 19, 2026, after 3 weeks of testimony and evidence, closing arguments began. Prosecutor Bloodworth reminded the jury of the overwhelming evidence. This was premeditated murder for financial gain, he said. Kouri Richins poisoned her husband with fentanyl, not once, but twice. The first time on Valentine's Day, he survived. The second time, she made sure he didn't. Defense attorney Nestor argued the state hadn't proven its case beyond a reasonable doubt. Where's the proof Kouri put fentanyl in that Moscow Mule? She asked. You heard testimony that Eric used drugs. Maybe he overdosed accidentally. You can't convict someone of murder based on speculation. On March 21, 2026, the jury began deliberations. For 2 days, the nation waited. On March 23, 2026, the jury returned with their verdict. Guilty of aggravated murder. Guilty of attempted aggravated murder. Guilty of insurance fraud. Guilty of forgery. Kouri Richins showed no emotion as the verdicts were read. In the gallery, Eric's family wept with relief. On April 10, 2026, Judge Richard Mrazek sentenced Kouri Richins to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murder charge, plus additional consecutive sentences for the other convictions. You poisoned your husband for money, Judge Mrazek said from the bench. You then wrote a children's book and went on television to profit from his death while portraying yourself as a grieving widow. Your actions were calculated, cruel, and unforgivable. Kouri's 3 sons, now ages 9, 11, and 13, are being raised by Eric's family. They will grow up knowing their mother killed their father. The children's book Kouri wrote for them has been pulled from shelves. The case has drawn comparisons to other high-profile poisoning cases.
Eric was on medication, and that medication you're not allowed to drink on. He asked the waitress to bring a virgin drink, a drink without alcohol. She didn't do it. It made him very, very sick. Kouri called his doctor, figured out what to do, and later that night he was back and fine. Everyone that was there will tell you the exact same thing.
He went and took a nap and then went and coached one of his child's games. Aside from an assertion by the family, there doesn't seem to be anything else out there that supports that.
We have watched as Kouri has paraded around portraying herself as a grieving widow and victim while trying to profit from the death of my brother. Kouri assaulted me. I will never forget the look in her eyes when she attacked me that Sunday morning. It was early and had been snowing most of the night. I was just getting ready to leave and heading out to the car when I saw a locksmith in Eric's detached garage starting to drill out his gun safe. I asked Kouri multiple times why we could not just call my dad for the code. I could not understand why she was breaking into and ruining Eric's safe. To this, she screamed at me at the top of her lungs, called me some inappropriate things I cannot share with you here, and then told me to get out of her house. It was then that I told her that she could not kick me out of my brother's house. My sister Katie was now the executor of Eric's trust and estate, and just like Eric, she would not want the defendant breaking into his gun safe. Kouri looked at me with pure hatred and rage. I was messing up her plan. I was getting in her way, and because of that, she attacked me. It took 4 people to pull her off me that day.
If Eric had any sort of documents, he'd have them in the safe, so she went in to go see what was in there. Amy came after Kouri, and Kouri defended herself.
The 2 of them started pushing. I was standing in the middle of them. All they did was push. Both of them were trying to swing over the top of me. So the narrative that's been pushed that it was poor Amy got assaulted was nonsense.
Stacy Castor, who poisoned 2 husbands with antifreeze, Lynn Turner, who poisoned 2 husbands with ethylene glycol, and Nanny Doss, who poisoned multiple family members over decades. But Kouri Richins' case stands out for one reason: the children's book. The audacity of writing a grief guide for children after allegedly murdering their father is almost unfathomable. It speaks to either profound delusion or staggering narcissism, or both. Kouri Richins is currently incarcerated at the Utah State Correctional Facility. She has filed an appeal, but legal experts say her chances are slim given the overwhelming evidence. Eric Richins' family has established a scholarship in his name for students pursuing careers in skilled trades. They want Eric remembered not as a murder victim, but as a hard-working craftsman, loving father, and devoted family man. Are you with me? The children's book Kouri wrote is no longer available for purchase. But the title haunts those who followed the case. Are you with me? Eric Richins can't answer. He's gone. Poisoned by the woman he married. The mother of his children. The person he should have been able to trust most in the world. And their 3 sons will spend the rest of their lives grappling with an impossible truth: their mother killed their father. For money. For a fresh start. For reasons they may never fully understand. Rest in peace, Eric Richins. You deserved so much better.
I can't confirm what the murder weapon is because the prosecution has never told us their theory. They have never said that it was given in a Moscow Mule, that fentanyl was distributed or in a Moscow Mule. During the preliminary hearing, their lead detective was on the stand, and I asked him the question, sitting here today, do you know how Kouri Richins administered fentanyl to Eric Richins? And he said, no. I still, sitting here today, don't really know how they're going to claim that Eric Richins ingested fentanyl.
There has been quite a bit of reporting about my client's financial situation. And the concern that we have is that the reports that have come out about her business, the solvency of her business, utterly failed to take into consideration a huge piece of property that she obtained 2 days after her husband passed away. And that's removed from all of the state's calculations. So the equity in that house alone, the value of that one piece of property was enough to cover any debt that she had in her business.
Well, another one that's out there is false is that she took out hundreds of thousands of dollars in life insurance on him shortly before he died. That's not true. She took out one policy that came in the mail, and it was one of those mailers we all get from our credit union saying, sign here for $100,000 free life insurance. Sign here for yourself, sign here for your spouse. You can get $100,000 free life insurance. That was sent in. She sent that in about a month before he died, 4 or 5 weeks before he died. All the rest of his life insurance, and he had a lot of life insurance, was all taken out by him long before that. And he knew of all the life insurance policies that were out on him.
So if Kouri did not do this to Eric, how do you think Eric died with that fentanyl?
My thoughts on it is accidental overdose. That's my opinion. Could have been a number of things, but but that seems to be the simplest answer to me. Just about every trip that I had been on with him, he'd buy just from someone off the street.
Hey, do you have any pain pills? Hey, can you call and hook me up?
Did he have any history that would have suggested he used any drugs?
39 years old, not any history of substance abuse, alcohol, drugs, never been charged with a crime, never had a family history of addiction, never had even as a minor possession of alcohol, nothing like that. He was very healthy. He took very good care of himself. He was active in his children's soccer coaching, basketball coaching, baseball coaching. He was an avid hunter. He was involved in search and rescue here up in the mountains. This is a man who took very, very good care of himself, and there is no history from any source at all that he'd ever even touched an illegal drug.
We don't know. We went to bed.
Hey, Clint's here. He's gonna help. Where are my boys?
The kids are in
Where's my brother?
He's in this room.
No. Do I see my brother? Baby.
Kouri, is there a way we could relocate your boys upstairs?
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a lot of traffic.
Yeah, I'll tell her now. What? Wait, come on. Come on. Your cousin's over here. See you. Bob, come on. Come on, Bob. Say what all the kids up. I love you so much.
We're good now. I can explain to her if you want to go.
I miss everything. I miss Chris, Will, everything. I miss power of attorney. I miss everything.
And we don't have to
Go
worry about
upstairs.
that kind of stuff right now.
Upstairs with the boys. Go upstairs with the boys. I'm sorry. This is
No, it's all natural, okay? Just take a deep breath. Take a deep breath.
Okay. I gotta breathe. Oh my God, I gotta breathe. I just talked to him like a couple hours ago. Everything's fine. He just woke up and he wasn't breathing. I went to bed. I went back to bed because I have nightmares. So I went back in our room and I was breathing. And I just turned over to cuddle him, and his body was just so cold. He'd been gone a while.
So the only information I know from what the medical staff that was here is he was cold to the touch, okay, and it seemed like he was down for a while.
If we went to bed, he was fine at 9:30. I mean, that's when I went to the bedroom with Ashton. I mean, so unless he went like, I didn't hear anything. He didn't yell. He didn't say anything was wrong. And nothing happened. Like, nothing happened. Oh my God, this is not real. Nothing happened. Like, I didn't hear anything. And right across the room, like, if he was in pain, why didn't he yell? It sounds like he wasn't. I know, but I'm such a light sleeper, I couldn't have heard anything. I just couldn't have heard anything. If he just said, Kouri, like, I would have.
When you walked into the home, what were your immediate observations of her?
So like I had told you, we had gone on plenty of family vacations together. Kouri had been on the family vacations with us. I walked in, I kind of flung through the door, and I saw Kouri standing on the other side of the staircase. She just shook her head at me. Sorry guys, bear with me, I apologize. And I knew right then my brother was gone. she stayed over there. I observed that she was not how she normally was when we would go on overnights. She was very well put together. She had a matching pajama-esque outfit on. Her hair was all done up. She wasn't crying like I was. She wasn't hysterical. Just stood there and shook her head no at me.
Did there come a time when Kouri Richins was consoling Ashton there and she was interrupted?
Yes. So Brianne Sorensen, which I believe was Ronnie, Kouri's brother's fiance at the time, I think they were engaged at the time, she came in to talk to Kouri. It was really interesting because Kouri was consoling, and then she immediately kind of stopped and focused on, they would call her Bree. And Bree started talking about the closing of the Midway Mansion.
How did Kouri react to what Bree said?
Kouri was very businesslike, very telling Bree exactly what to do, and I was dumbfounded. And I looked at Kouri and said, "You can't tell me you're going to close on that Midway Mansion when my brother just died." And she looked at me matter of fact and said, "Yeah, absolutely. He has nothing to do with it. The money's already gone through. It's all my business. I'm going to."
Eric Richins' father, Eugene Richins, also testified.
Did there come a time in the early morning of March the 4th, 2022, when you received a phone call about Eric?
I did, yes.
Who called you?
Kouri did.
What did she tell you?
She said that Eric wasn't breathing.
Where, sir, were you when you received that call?
I was at my home.
Is that the ranch?
Yes,
Is it in Hennifer?
it is.
What did you do next?
I got over there as quickly as I could.
During that morning, what, if anything, did Kouri Richins say to you?
You know, I don't recall her saying much of anything to me.
Did there come a time later when Kouri Richins told you what caused Eric's death?
There was. I can't tell you the exact date, but it was between Eric's funeral and when the medical examiner had declared what he had passed away of. And she called me and said that she had just talked to the medical examiner and they had determined that he died of the same thing Linda did, and COVID.
And Linda was your wife, right?
Linda was my wife, yes.
What, sir, caused your wife's death?
She had an issue with fungus in her lungs. Help me again.
Sure.
Where were we?
What, if anything, struck you about Kouri Richins telling you that Eric died of the same thing that Linda died of?
Well, as I said, I called my daughter, Katie. Katie, in turn, called the medical examiner, and they had never received a call from Kouri. They had not even released the results from it yet.
Okay, so what was your opinion of the cause of death?
My opinion of the cause of death was drug intoxication by fentanyl.
What opinion did you come to with regards to manner of death?
Could not be determined.
Okay, now let's talk about that determination is guided by a statutory scheme. Is that true?
Yes, we have classifications that it's divided into, and basically it's for statistical purposes. It's not really designed for other purposes per se. And so we're limited to natural, accident, homicide, I'm just blanking here.
Suicide?
Suicide, and determined as well. And so, because this investigation was still ongoing when I retired, I felt that could not be determined was the best solution for me to finish my report before I retired.
So what happened to the hydrocodone bottle that was sent with the body of the decedent?
It's under the medical examiner's office protocol to keep that until they're done.
So you don't have that bottle?
I do not know.
So all we have is a picture of that bottle?
Correct.
So it has never been taken for testing by you to anyone?
Correct.
So if there was fentanyl residue in that empty pill bottle from 2016, we won't know it because you never took it to be tested, right?
I was never given the bottle, no.
Dear Judge Mrazek, I'm here today to represent my brother, Eric Eugene Richins, whose life was taken in a senseless act of poisoning on March 3rd, 2022. His wife, the defendant, has been accused of committing this crime. If she is found guilty, she has committed the ultimate act of betrayal. Eric is gone, and I am brokenhearted. He was my best friend and protector. The feeling of loss is so great it is visceral. Eric died under horrendous circumstances. I am tormented at the thought of what he endured. I play it out in my mind. I go through the terrible sequence of events. I wonder when he realized he was in mortal danger. I wonder what Kouri may have said to him in his last moments. How long was he conscious, knowing he would die? Where were Eric's boys when all of this happened? Did they hear Eric's body fall to the ground? We have watched as Kouri has paraded around portraying herself as a grieving widow and victim while trying to profit from the death of my brother. Both by trying to profit from a book about his death and trying to get life insurance and assets that should go exactly where Eric wanted them to his boys. Immediately after Eric was killed, Kouri told us she could not help us get anything ready for the funeral as she was too distraught with grief. We shortly found out that was not true at all. In fact, she pulled herself together enough to go close on the purchase of a $2 million home, hire a real estate agent, hire an architect to create CAD drawings of the home, hire a lawyer in order to file a lawsuit on Eric's trust, hire a locksmith to come break into and clean out my brother's safe, and attempt to have Eric cremated. She mustered up the strength and resolve to do most of this within 48 hours of his death. Kouri assaulted me. Her behavior gives me great concern, as she has exploited the boys for money and will likely do so again. In addition, Kouri has weaponized Eric's children, manipulating my dad to do or not do things by threatening to cut him out of their lives if he did not capitulate to her demands. She similarly deprived the boys of contact with myself, my sister, and her daughters, unless we agreed to give her the money in Eric's trust. Since Eric's death, we have learned and unfortunately are continually reminded that Kouri is desperate, greedy, and extremely manipulative. If she gets out on bail, I will be afraid not only for my own life and those of all of my family, but most importantly for the lives of Eric's 3 sons. Our family has already suffered enough. Please do not let Kouri out on bail where she will be a risk to do further harm. Please protect what Eric put his life on the line for, his 3 boys. Thank you.
The issue before the court is defendant's motion to disqualify the prosecution. Defense requested in order either disqualifying the Suffolk County Attorney's Office in whole or disqualifying Mr. Bloodworth as a prosecutor. The factual allegations upon which defendant's motion is based are twofold. First, that Mr. Bloodworth listened to certain attorney-client privilege communications between defendant and one of her attorneys, her prior attorneys, Mr. Ramsey Hamidi. There's no credible evidence that Mr. Bloodworth or any other agent of the state has listened to any attorney-client privilege communication between defendant and her counsel, other than a few occasions on which Mr. Bloodworth listened to the minimal amount of time necessary to identify Mr. Hamidi as a participant in the call, and after which Mr. Bloodworth promptly stopped listening and moved on. Based upon an independent review of the record, the court finds that neither Mr. Bloodworth nor any other agent of the Summit County Attorney's Office has intentionally or purposefully intruded upon the attorney-client relationship between defendant and her counsel. And the Summit County Attorney's Office has not directed the Summit County jail staff regarding the conditions of defendant's pretrial detention. Based on those findings, the court concludes that no per se violation of defendant's Sixth Amendment rights has occurred based on the conduct of the Summit County Attorney's Office.
Did you know Eric Richins?
Yes.
How did you know him?
I cleaned his home.
Did there come a time when she asked you for the Michael Jackson stuff?
Yes.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a direct support intake. I work with people with disability and mental challenges and stuff.
Do you have a history of drug use?
Yes.
When did that history begin?
Sixth grade, I was smoking pot, and then it just varied up through junior high and high school.
How did it vary up?
Through cocaine, through pot, through mushrooms, LSD, acid, just drinking stuff through junior high and high school.
Did it continue into adulthood?
Yes.
For how long?
For quite most of my adulthood.
Have you ever sold drugs?
Yes.
Do you have a criminal history involving drugs?
Yes.
Does it involve drug possession?
Yes.
Does it involve drug distribution?
Yes.
Do you have felony convictions for drug distribution?
Yes.
Are you currently on a type of probation for drug distribution?
Yes.
And are you on a probation for a felony drug distribution?
Yes.
Is that probation in Wasatch County's drug court?
Yes.
What is drug court?
Drug court is where you go in, they give you the tools to rehabilitate yourself. They give you groups, personal therapy, one-on-one treatment. They give you random UAs. They have you complete an MRT book. Just tools to rehabilitate yourself.
When you say UAs, is that urinalysis testing?
Yes.
To see if you're hot for drugs?
Yes, we would call in daily, and you would either have a number or a color. And if your color or number was called, you had to go to the 5-minute clinic and do a UA.
And is the idea behind drug court that it's a rehabilitative program under court supervision?
Yes.
Are you sober now?
Yes.
How long, ma'am, have you been sober?
A little over 4 years.
Is that the longest time in your life since 6th grade that you have been sober?
Absolutely. Except for the time I was pregnant. It's the only time I quit, and then I'd go back to being high. But yes, 4 years, a little over 4 years.
Are you testifying pursuant to several grants of immunity today?
Yes.
Is one of those grants of immunity in a letter from Summit County?
Yes.
Is one of those grants of immunity in a letter from Salt Lake County?
Yes.
Is one of those grants of immunity in a letter from the federal government?
Yes.
And is there also an understanding between you and Wasatch County, or at least your attorney and Wasatch County, that there's immunity for the gun and the marijuana in Wasatch County?
Yes.
And do you have those 4 grants of immunity because you have committed crimes in connection with this case in all 4 of those jurisdictions?
Yes.
What is your understanding of those immunity agreements?
We're proceeding forward with the truth, and there will be no charges filed back on me.
Do you understand that they require you, in order to avoid criminal exposure, they require you to testify today truthfully?
Yes.
Do they require you to testify today fully?
Yes.
regardless of who's asking you the questions.
Yes.
And that if you don't testify truthfully and fully, you could lose all of that immunity.
Yes.
Did your lawyer assist you in getting that immunity?
Yes.
Did he advise you of the potential criminal exposure you face if you lose that immunity?
Yes. Yes. Sorry.
I need to remind you from time to time.
Yeah, because
It's not
it's like, yeah, you're fine.
Did you interview with investigators before you got immunity in those cases?
Yes.
About how many times?
Six times? 6 or 7 times.
And over the course of those 6 or 7 times, before you had immunity, about how many hours total did you speak with investigators?
Give or take 10, 15 hours. When they had first told me that, when they first mentioned that Eric, I already knew Eric had passed away. But when they had mentioned that it was from an overdose, that hit hard. Only for the fact that if that's what happened, I needed to step up and take accountability of my part in this that happened, or what I was asked for. At first, it took a minute to process everything.
Ma'am, did you know Kouri Richins?
Yes.
How did you know her?
I worked for her aunt for LTD's personal house cleaning.
And as part of working for Kouri Richins' aunt's house cleaning business, did you clean Kouri Richins' home?
Yes. Every other Friday, unless she needed an extra clean or a deep clean.
About how long did you know Kouri Richins?
I worked for her aunt for 9 years.
And did you know Kouri Richins that whole 9 years?
Yes. We got to know each other throughout the years.
Did you also perform other cleaning services for Kouri Richins?
Yes, when I wasn't working for Doreen, I reached out to her and asked her if she had any house cleaning or landscaping or anything that she needed help with.
Did you ever discuss your drug history with Kouri Richins?
Yes.
How so?
We just talk about how how I was going in drug court, and when I would graduate, and she would reach out and ask how things were going, or if we'd run into each other. I'd tell her I'm almost graduating.
Did you know Eric Richins?
Yes.
How did you know him?
I cleaned his house, and he'd come in and he would joke with us that we were there a little later than what we should have been, and he'd tell us, get out of here, we're working past 5 o'clock, it's time to go home. I've gone to their house with my grandkids on a barbecue when it was one of their sons' birthdays with her aunt.
Did you know that Eric Richins owned a stonemasonry business?
Yes.
Did you know any of the workers that he employed in that business?
No.
Did Kouri Richins ever ask you to purchase for her illicit drugs?
Yes.
How many times?
4.
Did you purchase illicit drugs for her?
Yes.
How many times?
4.
When you purchased illicit drugs for Kouri Richins the first time, who did you purchase the drugs from?
Susan Kohler.
When you purchased Kouri for Kouri Richins drugs the second time, who did you purchase the drugs from?
Robbie.
By Robbie, do you mean Robert Crozier?
Yes.
How about the third time?
Robbie.
The fourth time.
Robbie.
Let's talk about the second time that you purchased drugs for Kouri Richins, which is am I right, the first time you purchased them from Robert Crozier?
Yes.
All right, let's talk about that first purchase from Robert Crozier. How did Kouri Richins approach you on that purchase?
She had reached out to me in text message and said that her investor needed or wanted something stronger. And I kind of told her, well, I can reach out to the people I don't know. You just can't say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. When you're buying drugs off the street, you pretty much purchase what you get. And at the time, I didn't know anybody, so I reached out to another acquaintance that I knew that was still using, which would be Nicole.
Did he ever get back to you after that?
Yes, he did.
When he got back to you, what did he say?
He said he had a buddy that had some fentanyl pills.
What then did you do?
I had texted Kouri back and told her that I had a friend that could get them, but they were fentanyl pills.
So you told Kouri you had a friend, a hookup for fentanyl pills?
Yes.
How did Kouri Richins respond?
She said, okay, go ahead and get them.
So, did you go ahead and get them?
Yes.
What was the next step in getting them?
The next step was reaching out to Robbie and tell them to go ahead and get them.
Did you see about how many pills were inside that baggie?
No, I didn't sit there and count them. It was 15 to 20 is what he told me.
Did you said they were circular?
Yes, just round.
Did you notice their color?
Kind of light green.
What did you do once he gave you the pills?
Left.
Left to where?
Back up through Provo Canyon, back up to my house in Heber.
On the way back to your home in Heber, did you exchange text messages with Kouri Richins?
Yes, I did.
What was the content of those messages?
I let her know that I had him. What did she want me to do with them? I really didn't want them with me at my house.
Did she tell you what she wanted you to do with those pills?
She responded back with, take them over to the Midway house, put them in a shed. There was 3 sheds on that property. I didn't feel comfortable leaving them in the shed out in the open. So I went to the fire pit and kind of dug a little hole and put the gravel back on top of it and then kind of turned a brick to the side to kind of cover it up.
What's the genesis of these letters? Why these letters?
I was late for a couple of groups, so I got sanctioned from drug court to do 10 hours of community service.
Okay. So groups, do you mean group therapy sessions?
Yes.
And because you were late to court-ordered, they're court-ordered, aren't they?
Yes.
Because you were late to court-ordered group therapy sessions in drug court, am I right, the judge sanctioned you to community service?
Yes.
Then did you approach Kouri Richins about getting community service letters?
I had asked her if she knew anywhere I could get a letter with a head on it saying that I did some community hours.
Okay. Ms. Lauber, did Kouri Richins hand you those letters?
Yes.
Did you perform that community service?
Absolutely not.
Have you ever stepped foot on a Circle R ranch?
No, I have not.
Did you submit those community service letters to the drug court in Wasatch County?
Yes, I did.
How'd that go?
Not too well. I ended up in jail for a day and got more community hours.
Did there come a time when she asked you for the Michael Jackson stuff?
Yes.
Was that this time?
Yes.
What did you understand the Michael Jackson stuff to mean?
I actually wasn't sure. I had to Google it.
So you said there was ultimately this third buy from Robert Crozier. Did Kouri Richins give you the money up front for the third buy?
Yes, it was the Midway house still.
Was it the same way she...
Same little house in Midway.
Okay.
Back door.
Did you enter the back door of that little
Yes.
house in Midway?
Yes.
Did you get some money?
Yes.
Do you remember about how much?
About $1,000.
Was it cash?
Yes.
Was it cash the other time also?
Yes.
Once you got the $1,000 out of the small Midway house, what did you do?
I texted Robbie.
What did you say? What did you set up with Robbie over text?
Just saying, hey, does your friend still have any of those left? And then of course, it doesn't happen right then and there. I could text him and he'd say, I'll get back to you in a couple of days, I'll see what I can find out. So then when Robbie texted me back, I let Kouri know that I could get him, and then head back down, had Nancy take me once again down Provo Canyon to the Maverick on 126th.
Just like the time before?
Yes.
Like before, were you texting with Robert Crozier on the way down the canyon?
Yes.
And what was the content of those texts?
Same texts. How much longer? How far out are you? Because he always had to find a ride as well.
Were you texting on the way down Provo Canyon with Kouri Richins?
Yes.
What was the content of those texts?
Same thing. Sorry it's taken long. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'll keep you posted.
Can you please describe the baggie?
Clear little baggie. Just a small little clear baggie. As if you were putting an extra button in it.
Same as last
year.
time?
Yes.
Do you recall about how many pills?
15 to 20. I never stopped and counted them, but that's what he told me was in the baggie.
Were they round again?
Yes.
What color were they?
A lighter blue.
Once you received the pills from Robert Crozier, what did you do?
Text Kouri and told her I was headed back up Provo Canyon. And sorry it was getting late, so what does she want me to do with them?
Okay. Did you text with Kouri Richins on your way back up Provo Canyon to Heber?
Yes.
When you got back up to Heber, what did you do?
Oh, went to my house in Heber.
Did you still have the pills with you?
Yes.
What ultimately did you do with the pills?
Well, it was Nancy that drove me, so I had taken her to my house. Oh, wait, hold on, I'm getting confused. Hold on a sec.
Take a minute.
This is a lot. Hold on. Okay, sorry. You can repeat the question.
So, sure. The second buy from Robert Crozier, you went back up Provo Canyon to your house in Heber. Nancy Peterson was driving, right?
Yeah.
And you had the pills with you when you arrived back at your home in Heber. And the question is, what did you do with the pills?
I had them with me.
Did you hold on to them?
Yes, I did.
For how long?
I had given Nancy a couple for taking me, because that was her drug of choice at the time. Not very long.
What did you do with them?
I reached out to Kouri and asked her what she wanted me to do with them, because I didn't like having them on me.
What did she respond?
That she would come pick them up.
Did she?
Yes, she did.
Where did she pick them up?
In my house, in Heber, in my driveway.
Before Eric died, how many times did you buy drugs from Robert Crozier?
Twice.
Any more than twice before Eric died?
No, just the twice.
Before Eric died, have you ever been, other than those 2 times, to the Maverick and Drake?
No.
You just said Eric died in early March, right?
Yes.
Do you recall when you learned that Eric died?
It was one of Doreen's employees that had told me that Eric had passed away.
And do you recall how soon after Eric's death she told you that?
It was a day or two after.
Did you ever speak with Kouri Richins about Eric's death?
Yes, I did.
When?
A couple days after.
Where were you when you spoke with Kouri Richins the first time about Eric's death?
I was with my friend Nick, and we were on our way to do a UA for drug court.
Is Nick Bon Savage?
Yes, it is.
And the UA again is a urinalysis?
Yes, it is.
So you and Nick were together. Were you on a way? Were you driving to the UA?
Yes.
When you had that conversation with Kouri Richins about Eric's death, were you on speakerphone?
Yes.
Could Nick hear the conversation?
Yes.
Did you ask Kouri Richins about Eric? Come a time after that conversation where you asked whether Eric died from those pills, or you asked Kouri Richins whether Eric died from those pills. Did there come a time after that conversation when Kouri Richins again asked you to purchase drugs from her?
Yes.
How did she ask?
She asked me if I still had the hookup or my friend.
Scott, can I get 2-44? If you look down that column labeled description, Ms. Lauber, do you recognize that as a text exchange between you and Kouri Richins?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Is this an accurate text exchange? An accurate depiction of the text exchange?
Yes, it is.
And did it occur on March the 7th, March the 6th and into the 7th, 2022?
Yes, it is.
I'm talking about the third drug buy from Mr. Crozier now, after Eric's death.
Oh, no. She gave me she told me that the investor would leave money under her doormat at her house.
The investor would leave money under the doormat of her house for you to buy drugs?
Yes, in Camas. Her house in Camas.
So, did you go to her house and pick up that money?
Yes, I was with Nick. Nick drove me.
Okay, is this the same Nick Bon Savage?
Yes.
That was in the car when you asked her whether the pills caused Eric's death?
Yes.
So Nick drove you from where?
Nick picked me up in my house in Heber, and then we headed to the backside of Jordanelle to the house in Camas.
Kouri Richins' house in Camas?
Yes, Kouri and Eric's house in Camas.
Did you check under the mat at the front door for the money?
Yes, I went to the door, looked at the mat, there was nothing there. So I kind of looked at Nick and kind of shrugged my shoulders and ran around to the back door to see if there was anything under the mat there. There was nothing there, so I ran back to the front. And I kind of threw my hands in the air to Nick, like, what do I do? And I went up and rang the doorbell. It took Kouri a minute to get to the door. She answered it. She told me to come inside. I told her the money wasn't there. I gave her a hug and asked how she was doing. And then I told her the money wasn't there. And then she asked if she could write me a check. So then she went over near the kitchen counter and grabbed kind of a book about so big and wrote me a check.
Did she hand you the check?
Yes.
What other people from Summit County Sheriff's Office, if any, besides Detective Maynard and Detective O'Driscoll, did you talk to?
Were there detectives?
Yes. Were there any others?
No.
All right. Have you met with the prosecutors in this case, either Mr. Bloodworth or anyone else?
Yes, I have.
How many times?
There was an initial meeting when this case first came appeared with Bloodworth, and then a couple times over the last couple weeks.
So when you met with them over the last couple of weeks, was that to go over your testimony?
Yes.
Did they practice your testimony with you in those meetings?
They kind of prepared me for what kind of, I don't know what the word I'm thinking of. They kind of prepared me a little bit of it.
Did they help you put the pieces together so you would remember what to testify to?
Actually, I'm the one that's asked, like, if I needed to know Robbie, I put in my phone, obviously it says Kouri, Doreen's niece, Robbie, Nicole's friend, just stuff like that.
Wait a minute, I don't know if I understood your answer to my question. So my question was, did they help put the pieces together for you for your testimony, and what was your answer?
I said I'm the one that asked for pictures and stuff like that.
So you asked them to help put the pieces together for you?
I don't know if it was actually helping me put the pieces together. Kind of refresh my memory a little bit. It happened a long time ago.
That's true. This happened almost 4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And your original interviews with detectives was almost 3 years ago.
Yes.
All right, we're going to get back to that. Ms. Crozer, do you have mental health diagnoses?
Do I what?
Any mental health diagnoses?
No.
You're not diagnosed with any mental health problems?
No.
You're sure?
Yes.
What about anxiety?
Yeah.
Do you take medication for that?
Not so much anymore, no.
Okay. Are you on any medications today?
No.
Okay. Well, now it's January of 22. Okay. So you're missing drug tests. Then, on January 28th drug court, they said you had tested positive for methamphetamine.
Yes.
And you said, no, retest it, that's not true. I didn't use.
Yeah.
But then the next week, you came back and you said, well, actually, I did use. You don't need to retest it, I relapsed. Which happens.
Well, yes, working with active users, once again, with the cleaning company, they were all still active users.
Well, but it was your choice to use.
Absolutely, but if you keep getting offered and offered and as a drug addict, yes, obviously you're going to relapse. You're going to fold.
And you lied about it.
Yes.
All right.
That's what addicts do when you're using.
That's true. Addicts lie. All right.
Active addicts.
Wendy Lewis is trying to show the jury that Carmen Lauber cannot be trusted. She's a recovering addict who has a lot to lose.
So you're arrested on April 26th. You don't know yet about the firearm. You said you've forgotten about the marijuana, but you don't know about the firearm. You just know you were brought in on driving on a revoked license.
Yes.
The next day, Detective O'Driscoll and Detective Maynard show up to talk to you. April 27th, 2023.
I guess it was the next day, yeah.
All right. And at that time, you didn't know why they were there.
No, I had no idea.
But they told you, hey, we searched your place and we found a gun under your bed, correct?
Yes.
And they tell you your drug court is in jeopardy. You could be violated.
Yes.
And if you're violated, and you go back and be sentenced on your 2 first-degree felonies and your third-degree felony, you are looking at 2 5-to-life prison sentences and 1 0-to-5 prison sentence potentially. All right. But during that interview, you told the officers numerous times, I have been using drugs since I was 6th grade.
Yes.
My brain is not that good.
Correct.
I don't remember things.
Yes.
You have a learning disability also, correct?
Yes.
Can you share what that is?
No. No.
I would ask you to share what it is. That was a question, not a request. Sorry. I apologize, but it could be relevant.
Ms. Lowe's. Ms. Lauber, if you would please answer the question.
Yes, I do have one.
And what
is it?
It's not the highest education of. It's a low-grade education.
Is that because you struggled in school because of your learning disability?
Yes.
All right. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. A lot of people have that.
Right.
So here's where it's at with McKay and your drug court. Okay. They are looking for, and this is going to be upsetting, but let me finish. They're looking to pull your drug court deal and ask for 7 years on your 2 firsts. 5 years for the 1 felony, and then a 40% portion for the second for 7 years. The only exception to that, and the only thing that they're willing to kind of help you out with, is if you can help us out with this.
And by so, he means like, give us the details that will ensure Kouri gets convicted of murder.
So that's what they said to you?
Yes. Yes.
And let me just identify a couple of people here. The first person speaking to you, telling you that, first he says, I talked to McKay. McKay is the prosecutor in Wasatch County Drug Court, right?
Correct.
McKay King. Correct?
Yes, correct.
All right. And that in talking to McKay King, you may be getting 7 years in prison on your state case.
Correct.
But if you help him out, that's not going to happen.
Correct.
And by helping him out, that means you need to give us the details that will ensure that Kouri gets convicted, correct?
Correct.
And you are willing to do whatever it takes to save yourself from getting kicked out of drug court and going to prison, correct?
I'm willing to go forward with the truth, yes.